Alright guys, Dokkan time again, and today we'll be revisiting a how to build for the STR Future Gohan. He is going to be on the new Carnival Tech Broly's banner, so I thought now would be the perfect time to revisit his build, and considering it's been over a year now, well, almost a year since he's been released, and my previous how to build for him was, well, not in as good quality. So let's up the notch a little bit there. So before we get into his kit and everything, for those that just want quick build information, which I get, the 55% build is over on my right side of the screen here. As you can see, for a 55% build, I kind of more suggest just kind of throwing more crit into him, as he is an STR type, so he starts out with level 5, or just giving him another, like a level 5 additional equipment piece. Because he does benefit from additional. He does benefit a little bit from crit. He can do some damage. Not a crazy amount of damage, but he can do some good damage. I do highly suggest, though, that you kind of build him for how you should be building him with dupes, and do give him a defensive orb. This is a defensive unit. As far as other build options, you do have a classic kind of going for a damage build, if you so choose, and give him more crit. He does have built-in crit, but that crit is only guaranteed during his domain. So before and after the domain, he does not really, I don't think he has any chance to crit otherwise. So it would behoove some people to actually go ahead and give him some crit otherwise, so that he can be doing damage on the side. Like I said, he can do some damage, so doing that could help. He does have built-in additional, so a dodge focus in the hidden potential does not necessarily hurt him. You also do have another option of just going straight up full defensive build with him. Screw the damage. If he does any damage when he has the domain up, great, fantastic. You can go for a more centered towards additional route. That way you can try and guarantee some more defense on super, and back it up with some dodge just in case it's not quite enough. Personally, I think he's 100% fine, so long as he's getting consistent amount of additionals in, which we'll go over his defensive numbers later, probably in a minute or two once we get through his kit. And then another build option for him would be just full-on additional and putting the rest into crit, and then just kind of relying on his raw defense for, like, his actual usability as a unit. So I will have those cycling on the side throughout the rest of the video. Also, as far as his slot suggestions go, his best leaders, as for a lot of worldwide download celebration and kind of bigger units, they themselves are their best leader. In this case, with the new worldwide download celebration units coming out of Super Saiyan Goku Trio, Fist, Biz Trio, whatever you want to call them. And then there's Beast Gohan and the Super Saiyan Blue AGL Vegito unit. Those would be the best options, though I will tell you that he is only 170 for the Goku Vegeta AGL unit. The other three are 200% leaders. This is not his only options. They're just my suggested kind of more meta-relevant units as leaders. As far as his partners go, just about any and all Super Saiyan-esque generic kind of units will work with him. You know, prepare for battle, Super Saiyan, etc. So Goku, any Super Saiyan Goku is definitely going to be a good partner for this future Gohan, along with himself, the transforming future Gohan, and then any and pretty much all Trunkses will work with him as well. You know, Dismal Future and all that. As far as his best slot position, it's slot 1 up until he loses the domain and turn 5. Once you hit about turn 5, you know, he loses, I think he gains the domain or he loses the domain, but he loses his damage reduction on turn 5, so that does become a problem, and it does matter a little bit, but, you know, before that turn 5 restriction, I think he can be fine. So throwing him into slot 2 is then his best slot. So turn 1 and then turn 2 once you've lost a little bit of, or slot 1 and then slot 2, depending on when you lose your intro buffs there. So let's kind of go over his kit. As I said, it's not his only 200% option. He has several 200% options. You know, you got the Fizz Trio, the Int Trio, Beast, Z, Kid Gohan, Gohan Piccolo. You got the Beastless Gohan, Future Trunks, and then Goku Gohan down there on the right. The Goku Gohan, actually, it would be good to consider that that unit could get an easy A just about any day. I would say within the next year they should have an easy A, so that is something to keep in mind. As far as this kit goes, he's a 200% Carnival unit. For Future Saga specifically, greatly raises attack and then raises defense on 12 key, which is only 30% raised defense, but a 50% attack raise. Then he massively raises attack on his 18 key and greatly raises his defense. So that's 100% attack and 50% defense. As far as his passive skill goes, like I said, he does have an entrance animation. He does have key +5 and reduces damage received by 40% for 5 turns from his entry. So after those 5 turns, when you lose that 40% extra damage reduction, that's when he's going to start feeling a little bit weaker. Attack and defense 158, key +3, plus an additional key +1 up to 5, and attack and defense +20 up to 100 with each attack performed. This is also another reason why additionals do help him get to this peak faster. He does reduce damage received by 20% naturally, and then another additional reduction of 20%, and launches an additional attack, which has a 50% chance of becoming a super when his key is 18 or more. So as long as you're at 18 key with this guy, he has an extra 40% damage reduction. This is why Future Gohan is so good, still to this day, because he has 80% damage reduction for the first 5 turns of the game, which is pretty wild. He does launch another additional super attack when key is 20 or more. So guarantee this guy already has 2 additionals, 3 on a coin flip. Once you hit key +20. He does have a domain which goes up for 5 turns starting from the 5th turn. So specifically, once he loses his 40% damage reduction, he activates the domain effect. While the domain is up, he changes int key spheres to STR key spheres at the start of the attacking turn, and he performs a crit when activating the active skill or when key is 24 or more. So specifically, he auto-crits at 24 key in the domain, and he changes int key spheres to STR key spheres. The domain in question does give key +5 and defense +20% in battle. I do want to say that I think that is, like, constant. I want to say that is permanent afterwards, but I could be wrong. Please don't hold me to that. And then the domain's effect is increased damage received by extreme class enemies and allies by 30%. This is a huge effect that can definitely turn the tides of battle. And, you know, this is the part where him losing the 40% damage reduction is intro kind of makes up for it in the domain, because as long as you're fighting an extreme type enemy, you get 30%. So you only lose 10% damage reduction in question. So this is something to keep in mind. The domain is not permanent. For whatever reason, the website doesn't say how long it lasts, but I do believe it does last for a total of 3 turns, I want to say. So it is not permanent by any means. Just keep that in mind. And like I said, his best partners in general, you know, himself, Fizz Trio, Super Saiyan units, etc. You know, Super Saiyan's a crazy category, and it just randomly gets buffs. It just randomly gets buffs all the time, and honestly, Future Gohan is going to be good for a very long time. I'm not saying that he's invincible or amazing or crazy. You know, he's not top 10 anymore, but he's still a very viable unit in all 4 forms of content, so long as you use him correctly. So, let's go ahead and go look at his defense calculations. So as far as this is kind of an older one, so maybe it's not completely accurate, I don't know, but it's done by Halvard. Now you're looking at this and you're like, okay, 900k defense, that's not a lot. And you're right, 900k defense is not a lot. Full build up, you know, quad supering, yeah, or triple super. Is that triple quad? With 3 additionals. So no, it's the quad super. So yeah, no, it's not a lot. It's not a lot at all, in fact. And I would say your average amount of defense is actually going to be closer to more like, you'll get 2 to 3, maybe 2, probably more like 2 guaranteed additional supers. So I would say, as long as you have 40% support going throughout the whole fight, I would gander his defense around the 800k range. If you see him quad super, then yeah, he'll be almost at 1,000,000, especially if you throw defense orbs on him. Now there is, even back then, you know, people kind of thought, you know, he's probably going to be bad afterwards. I'm like, no, not at all. At the time when he came out was when we had some more difficult fights for, like, you know, Rose and Zamasu, and they hit pretty hard. They do hit pretty hard, and this is just an example of how much he can tank. Mind you, he still will take damage, but he can tank it. He can take a lot of stuff. And just keep in mind, like, even with these numbers, he can tank normals. He can still tank normals now, today. He's not the most best slot 1 in the unit in the game any longer, but he definitely has a place in the meta to be used so long as you use him correctly. But anyways, I think that's going to be pretty much it for the video. Let me know how you're going to decide to build him. It's really hard to decide how you want to build Future Gohan because he can do damage, he can tank, and he does technically support. So, I mean, he fills all different roles, and it really just comes down to your play style as a player, how you choose to build him. Are you going to go for kind of a middle ground, give him Defense Orb, you know, or just, you know, go full on damage, give him crit and some dodge? I think personally, myself, I'm probably going to go more towards the route of additionals and then put the rest into crit. I'll probably give him like a level 3 dodge, but this is probably the more one I will be going for, additional, and then put the rest into crit. But that's mostly because I like to see damage. I like to see damage, and I do think that as long as he's getting those additionals off, his defense will be raw enough to survive a majority of content in the game, and that's what I'm fine with. But anyways, let me know how you're going to build Future Gohan. Good luck on your summons for the Worldwide Download Celebration. Have a good day and a good night.